Hey guys, it is Mission Discover and welcome back to another video. Today I'm out here in my garage and I'm going to be running through my entire organizational system for fishing, as well as the tools that are contained in it to help me have a better experience and more efficient experience out on the water. As anglers, we love to obsess over our rods, reels, line, and lures, the stuff that actually helps us catch fish, but there's this whole other world of stuff that just helps us to be efficient out on the water that we often overlook. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking over how I stay efficient on the water using my organizational system in the garage, as well as my bags and tackle boxes that I bring out on the water with me, and then the tools that are contained inside those systems to help me do what I need to do out on the water. Just as a side note, this is the first video I am filming on my GoPro Hero 11. I just got this camera for a crazy deal. I'll talk about that more in later videos. But hopefully you guys enjoy this footage. I think it's going to be a big upgrade as my new main camera for filming. Alright, so I'm going to start with my system in the garage here and super quickly explain what I've got going on, and then pull out some of the other gear which is contained inside the garage to talk about that. So first up, we have this little area over here, which is where I store the majority of my rods and reels, as well as my nets. Up on the wall, we store the majority of my rods. This is one of those simple little rod mounts that you can get from like Amazon or eBay, something like that. It's a pretty simple concept. You've got a hole over here where you put the butt of your rod, and then over here there's a nice little hook where you can just put your rod in there and rests nicely in there. I have my rods that are over 6 foot facing that way, so we give them nice room to have the tips not hitting anything. And then over here are my rods that are under 6 foot long, because they're the only ones that fit in there and have enough clearance against the wall. We also have some hooks down here for my ice rod, just because it's too short to fit in the system up above. And down here we have a PVC pipe setup. My dad and I built this while I only had a couple rods and I was early on in my fishing game. I still keep a couple rods over here, just a simple DIY solution. And then we also have a hook right here where I store most of my net. I do have my really big one that I use while catfishing in the shed, but my two main nets are right there. And then moving on over, this is my outdoor bench area. I store a lot of my outdoors gear here, not just my fishing gear, but for today I'm just going to talk over what fishing gear I have here. This is just a simple shelf system. You can get them at like Costco or Target, something along those lines. Simple wire rack. So we have this set up to have a work mat on top. I do a lot of rigging here and stuff like that. Then we have a line holder that I built a while back. It's just 2 dowels that are sticking out of a wood base, and I keep a lot of my line here. And then we have 2 little Tupperware containers here, which I use to toss just random lures and hooks in there before I get a chance to put them back on their proper tackle locations, just to keep the area non-cluttered. And then we have my Plano Guide Series tackle tower on top. Up in the top, I store most of my miscellaneous plastics if they're not in my bag ready for fishing. I also keep things like jars of power bait and stuff like that. And then right here, I also keep this jar, which is just plastics that are no longer usable, and I keep them for recycling. I will do a video on that at some point. And then down beneath, we have 4 tackle boxes. This is just miscellaneous stuff, floats, beads, that sort of thing, wire leaders. I keep all my miscellaneous soft plastics that aren't in a bag in this box. This one has all my miscellaneous hard baits. And the bottom one is terminal tackle. I really like this system. It does very well for me, just keeping everything organized when it's not in my bag for fishing. And then over here we have just an excess old fly rod that I'll probably do a video with at some point. It's not part of my main arsenal, so I just keep it over here. We have some of these rod stands which I use for carp fishing. They're extendable, and you can lock them with this little clamp. They're not super heavy duty, but they work pretty well. And then we have my rod tube for traveling, just a thick piece of PVC pipe that I put an end cap on and a little foam insert in the top. It can fit 2-piece rods that are up to 6'6" long. which is the majority of the rods that I travel with. So that's nice to have, just protect the rods while traveling. And then down below in this little section, I have a variety of things from my fillet board to my fixed line rods that don't really need a space up on the wall because they compact down so small. We've got sunglasses, sharpeners, just a variety of things that can fit in there, and that way they don't have to be up on the top or in a separate box. I can just shove them underneath. Down in this open section, I keep my bags and tackle boxes, as well as my bucket, which also contains my bait bucket, a net, and my cut bait box. And then way down on the bottom, we have a big Sterilite box that contains a whole bunch of random odds and ends. We got my waders, my boots, and then my rod runner over there, which we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes. So now that we've talked over my system in the garage, I think it's a good time to start pulling some of the things out that are actually contained in the garage and start talking about those. And I think the obvious place to start is with my bags and tackle boxes. All right, so we are out in the yard now, and I have my fishing backpack out here to show you. This is the first of two bags we'll be talking about. This bag is made by KastKing. I believe it's called the Day Tripper. This bag ran me about 70 bucks, and it has a couple nice features that I want to quickly go over. First of all, it does have two hip pockets. On this hip pocket, this is where I normally store my scale, but it's in my other bag right now. And it also has this nice little mesh area to store baits or hooks when they're drying. You don't want to stick them in your tackle box wet. And then over on this hip pocket, I store my toolkit, which I'll talk about in a minute, as well as my pliers. Has a nice little spot for tools here. By the way, these are Marathon fishing pliers. I think these are a little bit overpriced, but they are fairly decent pliers, good cutters, and a good front section. And then this is just one of those little stretchy lanyards that you can get from a variety of places. I got this at the Philly Fishing Expo a couple years ago. And as I mentioned, inside this hip pocket, we have a little tool pouch. I have one of these in both of my fishing bags. They're all but identical, and I have them in each so that I know I have a core set of implements, and no matter what I do, they're going to be left in that bag. So these are just simple little pouches I got off Amazon. They're not the greatest pouches in the world, but they don't really need to be. They cost me about 8 bucks a piece, something like that. In the front, we have a set of forceps to get out hooks when they're hooked deeper or gut hooked on smaller fish. These are really, really useful as opposed to the pliers, which can't really do those super small tasks. And then we also have a Denny's hook and knife sharpener. Got grooves on the front for hooks and a flat side on the back for knives. That is a synthetic diamond sharpener. If you want to see me talk to the owner of that company, go watch my Philly Fishing Expo 2023 video. And then moving inside, we have a tape measure. This is the variety that just folds out. I've had bad luck with the retractable ones rusting out, so I keep one of these with a little Velcro tie on there. We also have a AAA flashlight. I have a Night Eyes flashlight in this one, and I have a mag light in my other kit. A nice little AAA waterproof flashlight is always nice to have. In each of them, I also have a small sunscreen stick, as well as some of these sunscreen packets and a small kit for first aid applications. We also have some duct tape and a Sharpie. And then we have two of these little pads here. This is kind of a odd implement. These are those non-slip pads for your drawers. And the reason I keep these in here is if you have ever got a multiple piece rod stuck, you can't really use the guides to get leverage on it to get it unstuck because you have a chance of breaking off the guide. But if you use these non-slip pads as kind of a grip, it gives you a really, really good purchase and you're able to get most rods unstuck. So I keep two of these little pads in each of the kits. Moving on to the rest of the bag. This bag has some very nice padded shoulder straps. They're nice and comfortable and durable, and they have little D-loops on each of them. On one D-loop, I keep a pair of floating fish grippers. This one I got at the Philly Fishing Expo 2 years ago, and then on my other bag, I believe I have a pair of KastKing floating fish grippers. And then one of the other things I like about this bag is just how many pockets it has. It has a ton of front pockets here. It has a big main pocket. You can access it from the side down here. And it even has a little pocket up here. Moving into the pockets and what I have in them, in both of these front pockets, it kind of varies. I could keep some snacks in there. I could keep my phone in a waterproof pouch in there. It really just depends on the day. Also, with this little one up top, it is meant for sunglasses, but I've kept sunglasses in there. I've kept batteries in there. I've kept a headlamp in there. It just depends on what I'm feeling. And then this bag does have side pockets as well. In this one, I stick a water bottle and I put the handle of the water bottle through the buckle strap to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And then on this other side, it is set up to be able to carry some rods. I will often stick my Tenkara or Tanago rods through here, stick the butt down in this little pocket here, and then it has a elastic cinch strap and a Velcro strap to make sure that they don't go anywhere. Super nice feature on this bag. And then moving inside, first up I have a Bass Mafia and Guggen Squad collaboration money bag. This is like a vinyl zipper bag that you can store a variety of soft plastics and stuff like that in. I keep all my soft plastics in there. I don't want them loose in the bag. I keep them in here, and then I throw larger floats in here, and I keep some spools of line for leaders in here as well. This thing has served me pretty well, and it costs like 13 bucks. I would highly recommend one of these. And then the only other thing in the main compartment of this bag are my tackle boxes. All my tackle boxes are made by Buzzbee. They have a super cool system. There's tons of videos on how cool these things are, but I'm just gonna give a general overview. These things are super rugged and heavy duty, which does make it a little bit heavier to carry around, but I definitely think it's worth it. This stuff is like the same material as bulletproof glass. The whole thing is like ridiculously overbuilt. The latches are super tough. You'll also have the ability to lock it if that's something you would like to do. And they do stack together. They have this indented section where they kind of lock together just like that. But the real magic of these boxes are on the inside. They have a gasket, which makes it not only waterproof, but these can float with a semi-ridiculous amount of weight in it. I have tested it with the amount of stuff that's in here. I was actually just surf fishing with it, and I have huge lead weights. This box will still float. The top supposedly protects your soft plastics from UV. I've never had any issues with that, but I guess it's nice to know that it will protect your stuff. The internals also wick moisture and prevent rust, which I have tested, and it does prevent rust. I still don't like to stick stuff in there wet, but if I have to, I have had zero issues with it, which is not something I can say about other boxes I've used in the past. And then the really cool thing about this is how easy it is to customize and swap out. Let's say I want to build a day box specifically for going to a pond that I like, and I know that I want whatever's in this box here. These actually pop out, and you can swap them between different boxes. I have 3 of these, and it's really easy to just pop out stuff and get what I want for a day, and it only takes me a couple of minutes. Don't have to transfer anything around, can just pull out the individual compartments. Now, these boxes are expensive, but I definitely think the feature set is worth the price, and I've been using them for 2.5 years with all but no issues. I really like them and would highly recommend Buzzbee boxes. And then before we move on here, there's one more thing I wanted to mention about this bag. This comes stock with a divider. You can see there's this Velcro strip in here. It kind of sits down in here, and you can put that in here. And then you can actually have it set up to use 3600 size boxes. If you open up this pouch from the side, you can slide, I believe, 4 3600 size boxes into the bottom of it. However, I've decided to take out that bottom divider and vertically slide 2 3700 size boxes in there. I think it just makes it a little bit more versatile, and then that gives you some extra space for rain gear. But be aware, you can do that with this bag if you want to use the 3600 size system. Alright, so moving on to my other bag. This is a PC Fun bag. It's kind of like a wading sling style hybrid bag. I use this on shorter trips when I'm in the kayak, or trips when I want to take a light load of gear for wading. Just going to quickly run through the feature set of this bag. It also has a slot for tools on the front where I keep my pair of Tsunami pliers. These pliers are super nice. They're a little bit cheaper than those Marathon ones I showed you earlier, and they perform just as well. I also have another one of those stretchy lanyards on there. Just like the KastKing bag, this one has a ton of pockets throughout, and it also has a nice padded strap with a D-loop on there, which yet again I keep my grippers on. As I mentioned earlier, these are KastKing grippers. Moving on to some of the pockets here. In this very front pocket, I store my little fishing toolkit that I showed you in the previous bag. And then it also has these two pockets here, which are great for storing leader line. That's actually my Tenkara level line. And then in the main pocket, we have my tackle box. This is a 3600 size Buzzbee. It also has this back divider pocket where I stored the majority of my soft plastics in this bag. In the long run, I would like to find a smaller variant of something like the money bag to keep my soft plastics in when I'm using this bag system, but I can't find one as of current, so I just keep it in this back pocket. Also in this back pocket, we have the start of my fly fishing gear. This is a little leader wallet, just a mesh bag where you can keep some pre-made leaders, and I also keep some indicators in here. And that's a nice segue into my fly box, which is also currently in this bag. This is a Region fly box. This is a pretty cheap one, but I really like the design. It has foam inserts on the front, your standard smaller size. This is where I keep all my panfish and trout flies. But on the back side, it has larger slots, and I keep my bass bugs and streamers in here, just my most used ones. And like many other fly boxes, this has a waterproof gasket, keeping it nice and dry, and it also floats. And I also have this Max Catch fly box where I keep my other streamers and bass bugs that I don't have room for in this one. Super cheap, very simple foam slotted waterproof fly box. Ran me about $8 or $9. Just a cool little one to have as excess fly storage. And then jumping back into the bag here, we have a couple other features. It has a kind of hidden front pocket here. I don't really use it for much other than my scale. This is a waterproof floating scale from KastKing. It works pretty well. It has been resistant to water, and it does float, and that's pretty good, especially for running about $30-35 plus these grippers back here. You can get this and the grippers for about $35, I believe. And then this bag also has two pockets over here. I like to store jar baits in there like Gulp. And it has this nice little pocket here, which I store things like the cap to my Tenkara rod or a set of keys. Just things that you don't want to lose. This is nice and protected from water as well. So I have a couple more miscellaneous pieces of gear laid out here in the yard that I want to quickly run over. I'm not exactly sure how I should categorize all this stuff, so I just kind of tossed it in a pile, and I'm going to talk over that now. First up, we kind of already went over this a little bit. I have 3 nets that I use while I'm out there on the water. This here is the main net that I use. This is an SF fishing net. Pretty basic, just a wooden handled net with good rubber mesh. By the way, if you are not familiar, rubber mesh is typically considered better. It's less harmful on the fish, and it's a lot easier to get hooks unstuck from. I also have 2 holes in it so I can mount a camera on there. And then it has one of these magnetic quick release systems with a stretchy lanyard, and I put this big old carabiner on there. This one is not a huge net, and it doesn't have a ton of reach, but it does the job for when I'm trout fishing and when I'm out on the kayak. It's big enough to get most fish that I would want into the net, and it just generally does the job. Next up, we have this net. This is a net that I got from a Facebook Marketplace purchase. It's just an aluminum handled net and it's very deep. That's the different thing about this one. I use this one specifically for carp fishing a lot. That's pretty much all I use it for. It has a little bit more reach and I can get a little bit bigger fish in there, but it's still nice and lightweight and portable. And then over here we have the Big Mama. This is an extendable net. It is very beefy. It's kind of heavy. It's probably 4 or 5 pounds, but it is huge, and I could probably get upwards of a 30-35 inch catfish or other type of fish in there if I needed to. I don't bring this one out barely at all, and I've used it probably 3 times total, but it's been very nice to have the couple times that I've needed it. Moving over here, we have my rod runner. This is a very unique product, and I don't use it a lot, but it is very nice to have. This can carry up to 5 rods in a nice convenient package. Make sure stuff doesn't get tangled and you can grab it all with one hand. I use this specifically for when I'm going for stuff like catfish or carp, where I want to set out a bunch of rods. I don't have to be super portable, but I want to be able to take a bunch of rods with me. This is where this thing really shines. It'll run you around 70 bucks. So it's not a super cheap item, but if you do something along those lines frequently, this is definitely something you're going to want to consider. Moving on over, we have my waders. This is something I was debating not including in this video because it's more of a clothing item, but come to think of it, this would not be something that would fit in a clothing video, an outdoor clothing video. These are Field and Stream waders. They're the cheapest pair of waders that I could find at Dick's Sporting Goods. They're not the greatest, and I only use them for maybe 15 to 20 trips a year because I don't do a lot of wading in the colder months, specifically for the reason that it's just a lot of work to do. I've had them for a couple years, and this right here is the only problem as far as leakage I've ever had, and we patched it up and it's been good ever since. They're nothing fancy, they're not insulated, but they do the job. Yet again, already kind of talked about this one. This is my bucket, simple 5-gallon bucket. I may be doing some modifications on this here shortly to make it a better piece of equipment for me than just a standard 5-gallon bucket, but put some stuff inside and can carry it around and use it as a seat. And on trips like going to the beach or catfishing or carp fishing, this is something cool to have. And inside I store my bait bucket. This is a basic Floetrol bait bucket. I don't use an aerator. I will either catch live bait from the spot and throw them inside there and just leave this in the water, or it will just be a short trip. Also have a net just to get bait out easier. And my cut bait box, I've talked about this in a short. This is an outdoor products box. This is just to keep the stench of things like cut bait or squid or shrimp when I'm out at the beach inside. I can throw it down in my bucket, and then my bucket does not smell terrible. It still might have a little bit of smell to it, but I won't die when I open up the bucket. And I can stick my bait in here, and then I can put this box directly into the freezer without causing a food safety concern. Just throw this box in there and it generally keeps the nastiness of your baits inside. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about today are these 2 products right here. This is just some water protection gear to protect my electronics. This here it's an MPOW. I don't know if you're supposed to say Mapow, but it's MPOW is the brand. It's a floating phone case. I just stick my phone in there to make sure it's waterproof, and sometimes I'll stick some extra camera batteries down in there, and I'll just throw it in my bag just for extra peace of mind to make sure that my phone is safe. And then this has the same sort of purpose. This is my Seahorse 58 micro case from Evergreen. Just a simple padded case, nice and rugged. I'll throw my phone, power bank, camera batteries, that sort of thing down in here. When I'm doing things like going to the beach, I'll throw this down in my bucket, or I'll throw it in the back of my kayak. Just a little bit beefier and larger option to keep my electronic equipment safe. And with that, that is all I'm gonna have for you guys in this video here today. I don't know why I decided to bury myself in all the stuff I do for videos. But if you guys enjoyed that video, make sure to hit the like button and possibly subscribe if you have not, because I've got more informational and educational content just like this coming your way real soon. And I guess maybe you can laugh a little bit too. God bless. See you guys next time.